Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, forger, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of Bye Bye with behind-the-scenes DMLA live stream Crafting the Deep, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep. If you're playing characters Gottwald, Max Saber, or Twirl, this stream is not meant for you. It'll be full of spoilers, but for the rest of you, welcome. I'm back doing the crafting streams, although there's not a whole lot of those left now because we're at the end of this campaign. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with an invite link in the description below if you'd like to support the channel. Please install stage 2 of the boss fight from Call from the Deep is this Friday. Friday, one night only. And we should be able to finish it up. I'm planning on having it all done in one episode, and that'll be it until the week after, in which we do our epilogue and recap. So if this is your first Rogue Watson campaign, know that we do a final epilogue and recap session, which is kind of like an extended after party. We talk about the whole campaign. I share some fun trivia stuff. We'll do like some polls, and just it'll be like a regular Friday night stream, but we're not gonna be playing D&D. We'll just be talking about D&D as a group. So that's what we do for our final session, but that will be presumably in 2 weeks. I won't do crafting streams because there's nothing to craft. So this week is actually going to be the final week of the crafting streams. We'll obviously doing the one now, and then we'll have one on Thursday. Thursday will be the very final crafting in the deep, and then Friday will be our final session, and then I guess next week we won't have any crafting streams. We'll still have a Friday live stream. That does feel weird, but I guess that's how I've always done it. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I always get confused around this time, even though I've ended several campaigns now over the years, but they do take a while. Where are we in Call from the Deep? It's been a while. I'd always get a little bit off my game whenever we take some breaks, even though I very much enjoyed having a vacation. That's right. She raised a whole army of zombies. My goodness. We've got so we're going to chase down the brain. We know that, which we figured they would. Oh shoot, we still got to figure out what we're gonna do at Twirl. That's right. Yeah, that's where I was, I think. Because I successfully drained him of hit points, I think, last time, right? By the way, I'm still getting over all this fucking congestion shit. I don't know if it's allergies or what's going on, but apologize if I still sound nasally and snotty and all that crap. Yeah, so I was dealing damage to him at one point. That's right. At one point, Gottwald healed him with the mutagenic injector fluid stuff, and he thought that the side effect. I think there was some confusion because I think Reset thought the side effect of him being powered or him being drained by the Kraken was his bones becoming brittle, gaining vulnerability to all these physical things, which actually isn't probably that bad going into this final fight because a lot of the damage being done in the very final battle is probably psychic damage and not actually physical damage. Plus, he's a backline guy anyway. He'll be fine. But I still need to actually give Twirl a Super Saiyan superpower mode because was something I was teasing and was going to be kind of a cool little culmination of his player character arc, I guess. I mean, he literally met his god and he saved his god and then allowed himself to be like drained of life energy in order to help heal his god, and now his god's like offered to power him up for the final battle. So that's kind of a cool excuse to do that. So we'll have to come up with some way of giving Twirl some extra abilities. We can look and see what the Kraken's abilities are, something that hopefully won't imbalance Twirl too much. But like I said, this final battle is meant to go. I mean, it's only meant to be the one session, whereas this one took a full 2 sessions. And may honestly not be as challenging as the first one was, just because the party will have all this. I mean, Twirl will have his superpowers. Sabra's got this literal swarm of fucking zombies that we're gonna have to try to figure out how to do with. I guess you literally do like one big psychic blast and they all get destroyed, but I also want to have something fun and be able to use these zombies for. So maybe do we need to come up with like a swarm of zombie stat block to try to make that easier? Because I definitely don't want to run a bunch of zombie minions, clearly. That seems like not the way to go. Let's go to that map. Although I'm not super sold on this map yet. But this is tentatively the map we're looking at. Very, very small arena map in the Astral Sea. I guess I could do dynamic light. Did I do dynamic light on this map? I don't think I did. Yeah, it's turned off. I didn't even do anything. I think the idea was here it's all like you're floating through space, so I guess you could use cover, but um, I think it would be more confusing to use cover versus everybody just kind of floating around with each other. Yep, only a couple of weeks to binge the entire campaign for the inevitable polls and trivia section if you want to be as informed as you can be. What can we do? Oh yeah, and we were going to do the psychic wins table. Excuse me. Which is going to be the new kind of layer action thing, which I think that's what we did last time. We used I think we were inspired by the short-term madness table generally. And then the psychic wins table that's already was a part of the book, I guess. And then we gave them different weights, so it's actually, I believe, a D20 table. Some of them just appear more rarely than others, like straight up incapacitating you for a turn. Appears rarely, whereas taking psychic damage has 4 times the chance of appearing. What happens is on initiative 20, everybody has to make a DC 15 intelligence saving throw. And if they fail, then they have to roll on this table, and everybody individually rolls on this table. I think I mentioned that last time. So instead of it having one thing that affects the whole party, which is how all of these tables have operated before, now you've got like individual maladies that can happen to each individual person if they fail that save. So I think that'll be a lot more interesting and have more things happening. And that would basically take the role of a villainous layer action. Will be this table. Now we could still... Oh, I'm still coughing too. Jeez. Horrible. We could still give Zelix 4 legendary actions. Here's a boss fight. Right now I've got him at 200 hit points, which I think the party could burn through pretty quickly. Can use his tentacles, can use Mind Blast. I gave him a Psychic Pulse ability if he can't have Mind Blast. He's got 4 per day legendary resistance, so plenty of that shit. Also insane saves. Just try and banish this one, Toril. Banish my bosses, bastard. You can banish one of these like mid-level guys. That would be a better use of banishment. So I do have... Okay, maybe I did this last time too. Legendary actions. Just tentacle attacks, which is pretty good. +7 reach of 30 feet. Honestly, kind of like the Kraken, doing 20 damage. And if the target is huge or smaller, it is grappled, escape D15, and takes 1d8 +5 psychic damage at the start of each of its turns until the grapple ends. That's kind of cool. I'm actually not going to have it auto roll. I'll just leave it there as a reminder. Oh, damn it. I wasted a crit on my test roll. Oof, 45 damage. Yeah, 1d8 +5 second at the start of each turn to the grapple ends. That's awesome. Alright, so Tentacle's pretty good. Unfortunately, it doesn't have multi-attack, so I think it has to have legendary actions. I'm a little disappointed the Elder Brain does not have multi-attack. I may have to change that. How does a boss only do one thing? On its turn. Tentacle or Mind Blast, which Mind Blast would always be the thing to choose then, because it's every creature within 60 feet, DC 18 intelligence save, or takes about 30 psychic damage and is stunned to the end of their turn. It's devastating. God, I rolled 37 psychic damage. That is crazy. DC 18 intelligence save is pretty hard for most of them to get to. I gotta be careful with this one. Now, it is on a recharge. So more than likely, I'm only going to get that off maybe once per battle unless I'm very lucky. So I should probably do it at some point. Maybe I don't do that opening turn. Maybe I wait until it's like, I'm almost picturing a lot of video game bosses when you get them. I guess actually the mechanic here would be bloodied, right? When you get them down to like half health, they suddenly get like new. You see like new boss moves suddenly get unlocked. Maybe it becomes faster, but maybe it does like one or two extra moves. So I could even see me doing the Mind Blast, maybe not even until it's lost half its health or something. And it can do that. Or maybe just a one time, like it loses half its health, it does the Mind Blast on that next turn as a one time, like super scary thing that it does. Otherwise, the tentacles are still pretty scary. And the Psychic Pulse I gave it basically does 3d6 damage to anybody within 10 feet of an enemy. If they fail a DC 18. Oh, actually, it just automatically does the damage if they're within the enemy. It's just if they're concentrating a spell, they have to make the charisma save or lose concentration. So legendary actions, we've got the Tentacle, makes a tentacle attack, Psychic Pulse, which is just use its Psychic Pulse ability, Psychic Anchor, basically it basically grapples somebody at distance, which seems kind of pointless. Well, I guess unable to leave its current space. So if Gottwald was somehow not within melee range, or Mac, because, I mean, whatever, Mac does more damage at range. I guess it's just because it's a very ranged heavy party that I find this one is not very useful. Because I think Gottwald's the only one that would be perturbed by this. Because if he's grappled, he can always use his action to escape the grapple. But if he's this thing, then you can't do anything. But it's only for one turn. Or he can target a friendly creature, and that creature gets advantage on its next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. I'm also not sure how good that one's going to be. And like the Kraken, we can give it 4 legendary actions. So we'll probably do what we did last time. We'll have a Shift 20, which will be the Psychic Winds. I got to cough again. It's a late night plus talking plus all my drainage is just terror. So initiative level 20 is the Psychic Winds. And then we do, what, 15, 10, 5, and 0 for all other legendary actions. So that's going to... So maybe I don't have to do multi-attack, because it'll have its regular initiative, obviously. But if it's doing 4 different legendary actions, and I could technically, if I wanted to do 4 tentacles, I could, but I would probably try to mix it up with a bunch of these different things. Then it's going to feel like it's attacking constantly. Oh, yeah, I guess... No, I wouldn't give it one use of Dominate Monster, actually, because it probably used that on the Kraken. Probably has to constantly use that on the Kraken, and then it just escaped. So, and the party did not rest. They're just going right into the next battle. Upgrade Twirl's Tentacle of the Deep to use the Kraken's tentacle attack. That's a good one. Can Savra do ranged from within her suit? She can do a ranged attack, yes. It's a psychic, some kind of intelligence save, I think. Psychic attack, but yeah, it does a ranged attack. She climbed out of the suit most recently to raise her zombies, but she could, in theory, just jump back in the suit if she wanted to. I would have no problem with that. In fact, I would be thrilled if she did, because then she's not casting 7th level lightning bolts and fireballs. So that's it's a net gain for me. Unfortunately, without the Kraken, his AC goes back down to 10. I think technically it's supposed to have the like wall of force around it, but I'm not going to do any of that because this is like its backup, like in trouble chambers. I will give it, I think it's supposed to have regeneration here though. I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference. Yeah, same properties of Area 70 of the Dungeons of Ascarle is not protected by the same glass dome. We're getting rid of all the little dungeon thing. We're just literally going to start it right in a big arena boss fight. 70. The fluid restores 10 hit points to any creature. Submerge it on initiative 20 each round. So... let's call it. So we'll just give him another trait. Generate fluid. Start of each round. Looks 4 regains 10 hit points. If they're still resting within the brine pool. No doubt someone big and horny is going to try to grab the brain, grapple it, and pull it out of the pool. But you know what? That's awesome. We're going to encourage them to do that. I don't think the regenerating 10 hit points around is going to really matter much. But if the party, if I describe that happening and the party sees that, then that's going to be something they're going to jump on and something fun they can try to do. If it's possible, I don't know. I guess if he's enlarged, can he still grapple a creature of his size? I think he can. Even though grabbing a tentacled brain is gross sounding. Alright, so I think we've got Zelix 4 figured out. It's going to be pretty easy to run. I think we're going to save the Mind Blast, only use it like maybe once or twice a fight. Even though it's very good, but I gotta be careful with that one. Otherwise, Tentacle's going crazy every turn. And then really relying on a bunch of minions as well. So we've got 2 just kind of random generic Mind Flayers. I guess we need to give them numbers. They've got their Mind Blast capable, though again, we'll be very careful about using Mind Blast. Plus, their Mind Blast is a cone. So they don't want to be hitting their own allies. So more than likely, they'll just be using their basic tentacle attack. Technically, I may let 1 or 2 of them try to dominate monster, though. That would certainly shake things up a bit. And if these guys would certainly know everything about the players, so being able to, again, dominate somebody like a Gottwald or a Mac would be very useful for the enemy to do. So that could be something I could pull out. Tharsorelli is going to probably get his ass kicked because all of my mini-bosses seem to get absolutely destroyed. The last of the attendants. So also has Mind Blast, but probably doesn't use it. Instead has a Mind Blade, which is pretty much what the Sahuagin Baron Thrall mini-boss did in the last fight. And literally that guy could do nothing. Tharsorelli has a permanent bonus +2 to hit with its Mind Blade. Okay, it's a +8. I guess that's baked in. It deals an additional 2d6 damage and hits target with the Mind Blade. In addition, Tharsorelli can choose one of the following options: disarm, menace, shove, or trip. I'm going to actually include that in its stat block because I will never remember otherwise. The attack hits Tharsorelli. Choose one of the following options. DC 15. So menace. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, become frightened of Tharsorelli, and if Tharsorelli's next turn. Shove. The target is large or smaller, must succeed on a strength save, push 15 feet away. Or trip, if the target is large or smaller, must see on a strength saver be knocked prone. So basically like a Battle Master fighter. Except with unlimited uses, because of course I'm not going to track any uses he's got of that. I don't think disarm is very good in D&D the way the rules work necessarily, but I like to... Menace could be good. Frightened is just disadvantage on that person. I don't think I'm ever going to use shove in this case because we're in the Astral Sea, so I don't think shove's going to matter. And trip also might not matter if we're in the Astral Sea. I don't know if you can be tripped while you're like floating around. Gottwald's going to hate not being able to grapple and knock people prone again, but oh well. So Menace, I guess, might be the only one I actually end up using. But basically, every time he hits, he has to force him to make a DC 15 Wisdom save or become frightened. That's a nice boss move. Plus 8 to hit means he's actually got a chance to hit people, too. Stupid PCs and their 20 plus AC. He's got an Indomitable where he can reroll a failed save. So he doesn't quite have Legendary Resistance, but has kind of a half Legendary Resistance. And a second win, which as a bonus action can regain 20 hit points. So I guess at one point he can regain 20 hit points. Which I've seen a lot of enemy fighter NPCs have that ability. As a reaction, Tharsalli can add 3 to its AC against one melee attack that would hit it. To do so, Tharsalli must see the attacker wielding a melee weapon. That would give him an AC of 21, which would be pretty awesome. Only against one melee attack, though, but still, I gotta remember to use that. That's pretty cool. But this guy's a great target for being locked down with crowd control spells. So we'll see. Just, again, a pretty easy bruiser. So not a big, like, spellcastery fight, honestly. Other than a few of these guys using Dominate Monster. Instead, what we're going to end up with is that Psychic Winds table is going to provide a lot of what normally would come from spellcaster crowd control effects. So, like, blinding, having to move in a random direction, disadvantage on stuff, having to randomly attack somebody, straight up incapacitated, all of those effects. Remember, they're going to be having to make a save against that every single round, in addition to fighting all these stat blocks. Yeah, I might need to, because I don't know what else to do for the zombie horde, mad. If there's an idea for a swarm of zombies. Trying to look through right now and see. Swarms are generally small. Okay, there's a skeletal swarm from Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I love the Abbey. We never used that one. So skeletal swarm. It's a large swarm of medium undead. Collectively has an AC of 13, 60 hit points. Attacks for +4 and deals 2d8 +2 slashing damage. That seems really low. And considering the entire swarm's attacking at once, I feel like that's almost as much damage as a single creature would do. Swarm of lemurs. Lemurs or lemures? Wow, it's the same same offensive capabilities though. +4 to hit and 2d8 +2 damage. You could give her several swarms. Use the spell Circle of Death. That's an interesting idea. Use it like a spell. And yeah, we'll have a lot going on. That's why I am trying to keep things pretty simple. Boy, there are just a lot of swarm options though. I'm just scrolling through. So many things can appear as a swarm. Alright, what is Circle of Death? 60-foot radius sphere within range. Each creature manages to make a Constitution saving throw. Target takes 8d6 necrotic damage on a failed save. Okay, so it's a fireball. Gosh. 6th level necromancy spell just to cast fireball. Fireball with a con save instead of a dex save, I guess. Eight d6 seems a little strong. I guess if you're going to literally do the entire swarm in one big ball versus giving her a couple swarms, which having one stat block would be easier. That is a big radius. 60-foot. Oh, that's true. 60-foot radius sphere, so it's 120 feet. That might be bigger than a fireball. Range 150 feet. Okay, yeah, that's a bit bigger. That's a wee bit bigger. Hmm. I'm not opposed to the idea of just having one giant ball of zombies. And thus it would make sense if it was pretty damaging. What does 8d6 look like? Is that like 30 damage? Just about. That's a lot. That's a lot for an army of zombies. A zomball. That's going to make me want to use my Mind Blast a lot earlier if I've got that giant zombie swarm running around. But I do think that would be satisfying for the player. But instead of making a save, I think you would have to make an attack roll. Which that could be a big... Or maybe you don't have to make an attack roll. I don't know. Maybe it's more like a dex save to like avoid a swarm. Although if we're in the Astral Sea, then it's 3 times your intelligence. And how intelligent is a zombie? Chances are I won't be able to move very far. Intelligence of 3. So technically in the Astral Sea, zombies can only move 10 feet. Which is half the normal movement. So that could be an interesting limitation. It's a giant ball that does a ton of damage, but it's very slow. I think con is appropriate. Mom should have high con too. Yeah, zombies will move even slower. So you think Constitution's still an appropriate save for avoiding zombie attacks? I don't know what the con saves are like for these guys. I know Zelix 4, it's actually his cons. His only weakness is Dex and Strength. His other saves are pretty damn good. If that zombie swarm makes like I'll park the enemy to where they're at least a little bit away from Zelix 4. To where the zombie at least can't get him in one turn. But if the zombies do reach him and start chomping down on him, then Zelix 4 would definitely annihilate them with the Mind Blast, I think. Although I may give them enough hit points where they could withstand a Mind Blast, I guess. Zelix 4 can do how much damage with it? Good lord, I'm rolling so well, y'all. Damn it. I'm upset about this. 46 psychic damage is damn near almost max damage. And watch me roll like 20 something on the actual freaking stream. That's awesome. Because there's no way the zombies can make a DC 18 intelligence save. I literally don't think it's possible. So they would take all that psychic damage and be stunned. And I would probably institute the swarm rule where they have a certain amount of hit points, and if they lose half their hit points, then they do half the damage. Demnix, can you make me a swarm token? Basically using the same art, but instead of me using a big version of the art, if I can just populate it with like a hilarious amount of zombies in one token, would be Chef's Kiss. Because then I can use that. In fact, I could even do a this size token, a super big. I guess we'll have to figure that out. If we want to make it a hilariously giant swarm of zombies. Because if we have literally like 30 zombies, and I feel like they should take up at least probably a 15 by 15 space. So I may have to go even bigger. So we're going to have Savra with the zombies. And then Toril needs to have, yeah, probably something to do with the Kraken for sure. We could have Toril be able to shoot out the lightning strikes, which would be devastatingly powerful against the terrible dexterous brain. Probably too powerful. That would have to be a full action, I think, for him to do it. Or we depower it slightly for Toril, which we could definitely do, because that's a classic, like, oh, you got the boss's things, but you're not strong. We could definitely power up the tentacle. I wonder what his tentacle normally does. I think it's, I don't know, I remember what the attack, what the to hit is, but I think the damage was like 2d8 or something. It's possible for me to scroll up and see. It's Eldritch Blast. Which I think he might have a plus 10 to hit already. So yeah, when he summons his Tentacle of the Deep, we could have it change to... There it is. Okay. It's a plus 8, I guess. So we could change his plus 8. We could double it. Make it a plus 16. We could double the damage. 4d8 is closer to what this tentacle would be, I think. It's 48. How much is that damage equal? Maybe a little under 20. And then add the ability that it can grapple targets. Because it's Tentacle of the Deep, that's just like a bonus action thing he does. So that would be a pretty big upgrade. So I like the idea we could up his Tentacle of the Deep by doubling its attack to hit, extending its range, doubling its damage, and giving it the grappled and restrained ability. But we would say that the target would have to be, well, because the first thing I want to do is restrain your stupid brain, boss. Which I guess isn't the end of the world. I guess if he's restrained, he has disadvantage his attacks, though. The bad thing about that wording also is I can't use Legendary Resistance because there's no save. But what I could do is make it so they do have to make a save to be restrained. Because if that's the case, then at least LX4 can use his legendary resistance against being restrained every time. I feel like if you're going to have the Kraken's Tentacle, then you should be able to grapple and restrain people with it. I like that idea, though. We could also give Toro, like, one use of legendary resistance or something bullshitty. I don't know. Trying to think what else we can do. I mean, Lightning Storm. We could use Twirl's DC and still it would be a DC 18, I think. I feel like I should lower the damage, though. Jeez. 6d10 lightning damage. How much damage can he do a turn with Eldritch Blast? Okay, so if he hits with all 3 Eldritch Blasts, which he very well would against the Brain, he would do, on average, about 30 damage. Which I feel like that's about as much as you're going to get with a Lightning Strike. Yeah, I just rolled 27 right there. That's kind of low. That's a really shitty damage one at 20. Yeah, so we could give him the Lightning Strike ability, but... and actually keep the damage the same, and just as an action, but now you and I know that calculating that, it doesn't really change his damage output that much if that's just a full action for him. And I don't think I would give him the high DC 23 either. I'd give him like a... whatever his... I think his save's a DC 18. But I don't think... well, I'd say the Zelix 4 would not be able to make that save normally, but he does have legendary resistance, so... I guess that would help. So actually, it's better to use attack rolls against the boss than spells that have saves. Alright, so... Twirl's reward equals... Cynical of the Deep gets twice the to hit from +8 to a +16. Doubles the damage. 2d8 to 4d8. Means a reach of 30 feet. And targets must make a DC 18 dex save or become grappled and restrained. The escape DC of 18. I think that's where we're going to have for Toral's upgrade. Which should feel pretty good. And we'll give him Lightning Strike too. So got a magical bolt of lightning at a target within 120 feet. Target must make a DC 18 dex save, taking 6d10 damage on a fail or half on a success. His poor brittle bones. Also gains one use of Legendary resistance. Alright, I think that's a pretty good powered up thing, right? That doesn't quite go crazy. His Tentacle of the Deep gets a big buff. He gets a new ability of Lightning Strike, but again, I don't think that's hugely unbalanced from what the party can do offensively now anyway. That's still only a single target. And I will give him one use of Legendary Resistance. Basically just a free use, get out of jail, free card. So then for Savra Zombies, I don't know, probably something like 60 hit points seems low, but these are all like mini zombies. He's still going to be 8. Like a swarming insects, they can move into somebody's space. But instead of an attack roll, I'm liking the idea of a saving throw. Maybe just keep using DC 18. Is that what Savra's save is? Or is higher than that? It says 17 on here, but I feel like it's higher. Just make a note that's Savra spell save DC. Eight D6 bludgeoning damage. Half on a success. Swarm's HP is reduced to half. Fewer. Damage of the swarm is reduced to 46. Tentatively, that's what we're thinking of there, but hopefully it's not. Because it's not as good as Circle of Death. Circle of Death obviously would affect everybody in a giant radius. I think for Savra's, she would still have to direct her zombies to. Although one interesting thing we could do is that we could say that anybody in its space has to make the con save. Which I think I actually just wrote that down. So if you took that giant ass, let's take like this one. And then you were able to, put multiple people in that space, then I could force multiple targets to actually make the save. So that could be an interesting way around it too. Take advantage of positioning. The other ones we haven't really looked at much are these Brain Golem guys. These were used as mini bosses previously. They fought one of them where they were actually able to cast their own spells, but for the purpose of this fight, I think I'm just going to take that part of it out completely and just run them like bruisers. They just make 2 slam attacks with a +7, doing 15 damage. But if both attacks hit the same creature, then they grapple the creature, and the target must succeed a DC 15 intelligence save or has the stunned condition until the grapple ends. And then presumably the turn after that, if they're still grappled, then this guy can use Extract Brain. Pretty fucked up way to die. Thank you. Thank you, Demnix. So I think that's the best way to go about it. And we've the Eater of Knowledge is where I drew this from, which is from Planescape. Literally just depends on how many like brains they've consumed is how many spells I can cast. So we can just say that these guys were like brand new baby brain golems, don't have any spell casting capabilities, and that's just basically have their basic ass slam attacks. But for minions, they've got 100 hit points each. I guess we could roll and see where our random hit points fall. Or not, because it's not working right now. Let's go into... Do it manually. 12d10 plus 36. Let's roll some hit points. 108 and 117. Got positive hit points each time. 117. And then for our generic Mind Flayer friends, 13d8 plus 13. 73 and 81. All right, we're above average on all our hit points. How nice is that? That's pretty nice. And I say we give the boss 200 hit points. We may play with that a little bit, depending on how the session goes. We may have to give him a lot more hit points, just to have him survive a couple rounds, but we'll see. As long as I get one good Mind Blast off, I'll feel good about it. And then, like, at least give me, like, 3 rounds. 3 rounds gives me a lot of legendary actions and a lot of options. And Thirst Early is the only one I don't know about in terms of hit points. Obviously, don't want to be at the boss's level. It's already above the suggested hit points, which is already above the Mind Flayer, the generic Mind Flayers, with about 70 or 80 hit points. He's got 130. So again, I'll probably keep him around there, and he's also got the second wind. So yeah, I think I'm feeling pretty good about this. Like I said, this has been a weird one to balance because we just had a big boss fight that lasted 2 sessions, and now we're having like another boss fight, but there's no real break in between. The party's going directly from that one into this one, and it's a different dynamic. Hopefully, still fighting an Elder Brain, but hopefully there's enough interesting going on. The only thing I may change is I may try and look for a different map, or I may just blow this map up a little bit, because the more I see it, the more it feels like it's a little too cramped. Although I did appreciate that this one is more intimate than the last one. But I worry this one might be too small. She's half her spell slots, making so many properties. Minimum HP and being relentless, not disappointingly effective. I might not be reading this right, man. So you're saying that the more zombies properties like mini HP and being relentless, and often disappointingly ineffective. So I need to make her zombie swarm stronger, is what you're saying? Keep in mind, narratively, it also did help them win the last fight. Although I was also ready for that fight to end, generally. But I like that it occurred kind of at the right time. But because she's got this big swarm of zombies, it feels appropriate for her to be able to usher them in here as a super-powered weapon. Yeah. Oh, less likely of AoEs, yeah. It does make the boss's big Mind Blast AoE, like, real nasty, because I think it's got a 60-foot radius, and that literally covers the entire map. The entire map's only, like, 35 feet from every edge, though, from the brain. Zombies will be a. I like the Circle of Death actually a lot. So just a walking con save for 8d6 damage every round. And if you can position them correctly, it'll be amazing. But they will be very slow because of the way the astral plane works. It can only move like 10 feet around. But when you're this big of a swarm, I mean, 10 feet still going to let you cover some distance with this small of a map. Yeah, I could give more hit points. I could give him up to maybe even close to 100 hit points if that would be better. That way the threshold for them doing half damage uh is raised to 50 hit points. So once they take 50 hit points of damage, then they're only doing half damage. That might be a good way for them to absorb a mind blast or two from the smaller mind flayers if they can position it correctly. I'm not sure I'd ever be able to do that though because they've got the 60-foot cones, and I'm not sure they'd ever be able to a position where they could blast a 60-foot cone and not hit an ally. I mean, if the zombie swarm is here, I guess you could be like right here on the edge and still blast a cone. Could sort of say like, hey, I'm gonna get the cone in there. Stupid 60-foot cone. So stupidly big. It's so big. Because one thing it wouldn't want to do is harm its own creatures. I could make the brain golems immune to Mind Blast. That would be interesting. Or maybe even the Mind Blast like heals them. Like psychic damage heals them. That would be devilish. Devilishly interesting. I might have to play around with these shenanigans. Because there is precedent for certain creatures that if they take the damage, or they have damage immunities basically, but not only they have damage immunity, but they actually have like damage absorption. They absorb the damage and that turns into healing. That would be an interesting way of getting out of my can't use my Mind Blast features ability. Now, Zelix 4 has already got a special ability where he does not target enemies, I believe. Creatures of the Elder Brain's choice within 60 feet. So if he does that, then... But why would he not hit the Brain Golems? I guess he could hit the Brain Golems and didn't heal them. If I change the Brain Golems traits to be able to heal from psychic damage. Which is an interesting thought, I think. Well, I got some stuff to think about. I think we've got it pretty well wrapped up, but we'll certainly do another crafting on Thursday to try to revisit some of these balancing things and to do a very final crafting stream for this campaign because we are wrapping this shit up. I think that's going to do it for this Crafting the Deep. If you enjoy the content, as always, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Dan, Brandon, Dennis, Eclectic, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Nathan, Caprissa, Counselor, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lumpy, Sponge, Warden, Harold, Unimona, LC, Tom, Eating the Dogs, Galen, Marcus, Nuggy, Hugo, and Yee. And gold patrons, RPG, Peppercrabs, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, This is Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Fasca, Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for support. I'll see you for that final crafting stream on Thursday. It is not going to play music. How anticlimactic. Roll 20. Oh well. No music for you. Bye.